What's happening, everybody? This is Adi again from Theros International, and I've had a long break, it seems, since the last scouting report. It has been about a month since we've been back with the last deep dive, and we got a bit to talk about. Today, we're going to be talking about Willian Borges da Silva, and as everyone just calls him, Willian, we're very excited. The player was recently announced today by the club on a free transfer. He played for Fulham for the last 2 seasons, and we're excited to talk about him today. Now, before we start talking about Willian, before we start really getting into it, don't forget, if you're tuning in, to like and subscribe. Every engagement, whether it's a like, a comment, you subscribing, helps us find more red and white fans. If you're new here and you haven't really seen the content, if you like it, consider subscribing, following, ring the bell if you want to find out when the latest content comes up. And you can also support us on Patreon. Patreon members generally, as long as we have heads up for the transfers, they get early access to the scouting reports in the content tier. Dollar a month also gets you access to the WhatsApp group. A lot of crazy stuff happens in there, and it's a whole lot of fun. So doesn't matter where the sun's setting or rising, you will always have somebody to talk to and engage with in the Patreon group. So consider joining us on Patreon. And now that that's out of the way, guys, let's get to it. Let's get talking to Willian. This is the scouting report for our new attacking mid winger, 36-year-old veteran, coming in at 5'9". That's 175 centimeters, 77 kilograms, 169 pounds. So for his smaller frame, he's a big guy. He's got a decent amount of size on him. Very well built, I should say. So um, as we approach the September 4th UEFA registration deadline, I know that I'm probably going to end up getting busy, because as you guys may know, tomorrow, even though the Greek Super League deadline for transfers is September 11th, we have to make sure that we make our signings as olympiacos before the end of day tomorrow so that we can register them for the Europa League. So if we are going to make sure we get that done and we have these players available to us, like Willian and whoever else we end up signing in the coming day, um, we need to make sure those are done. At the time of recording, this is September 3rd. So by the time you guys see this, it will be with the last day before the European registration. So it's going to be a hectic next 24 hours for me, and of course for the rest of the fans that are waiting on pins and needles to see who our new signings are going to be. And really, what better way for us to jump into the scouting reports than to talk about Willian, very well known attacking mid winger that you guys may remember from Chelsea. He also played for Corinthians in Brazil. He had a spell at Arsenal, and really, since he left Chelsea in the Premier League, his career kind of took a dip and was very underwhelming. When he signed at Arsenal, there was a lot of hype around the player, and he really did not meet expectations. And then the same thing happened when he went back to Corinthians after that. It was the same thing, very underwhelming, until he made his way back to England for Fulham in the last 2 seasons, where his career got revitalized and he was the Willian that everybody remembered when he was playing at Chelsea. So, as far as his profile is concerned, at 36, it's not much different than you might remember him at Chelsea after his last 2 years at Fulham. Now, yeah, he's older. He probably has a little bit less stamina, but man, he is still tricky with the ball, plenty of flair, great acceleration and burst, can change direction incredibly quick. He's such an agile guy. He can play on both wings. He can also play behind the attacker, the striker, I should say, and he can operate as the focal point in possession, or he can just operate as the wide outlet. Very versatile in how he can be played in a system. Now, as I've done previously, we're going to look at how Willian's profile can fit with our understanding of Mendeleevar's system and its current asks. So this is something that we've been doing now that we know what to expect from Jose Luis Mendeleevar. We're going to evaluate the player based on what we think the needs are of the current system. So, as we always get started, here is the data, the percentile data chart. So, this is comparing Willian to all the other attacking mids and wingers in the Premier League to see how he stacks up against those players. And as we always do, we get started with goal creation. So when it comes to goal creation, Willian scores from a number of different situations. At Fulham, he scored the majority with cut-ins from the left side while running towards the center top of the penalty area. Generally, he would come 1v1 with a defender, maybe feint left, cut right, or simply even just cut right, take a shot with space that he created. He has a lovely shot that curls into the top corner in into these types of situations. He also has a pretty powerful shot as well. I mean, that took me by surprise when I saw him rip a couple of rockets into the goal. So he scored goals that came off of rebounds. He slotted things into corners. He also took penalties for Fulham as well. So he had a handful of goals that came from those types of situations. Now moving on to more broadly, like all the types of shots that he took. Outside of the goals that he scored, shot opportunities also came from kind of drop offs at the penalty area, whether it was a teammate just leaving a ball up at the center for him and he would just try to rip a shot. A lot of those cases were when he was playing as an attacking mid and kind of coming up the middle. So he would take shots. Like most of them, they would end up getting bounced off of a defender or something. But I mean, in those situations when you saw him take shots from distance, you could really get a sense of the power that he has in his shot because he would just launch these things. And it, as dangerous as they seemed, they never really ever seem to go in. So while it is something that's in his toolkit, I'm not exactly sure how many of these long shots we're going to see actually go into the goal in Greece, at least. Now, some of you might be looking at his goal scoring volume, which is in this bottom third over here in terms of where the data is. And you might be looking at the goals per 90 and saying, well, that's not that good. It looks kind of low. And you'd be right. I mean, it doesn't his volume in terms of goal scoring opportunities is pretty low. Same thing with shot scoring, with shot opportunities, which is a little bit better. But to put that into context, remember the team that he was playing for. Fulham is not a team that dominates their competition and gets dozens and dozens of chances every game. Willian was part of a team. It was a mid-table club in England. We know Marco Silva as a coach, and as much as they do try to dictate their own pace, as much as they surprised a lot of people, they are still a mid-table team, and they play very aggressive. But they're going to play a lot off the counter. They're also going to spend a lot of time defending. So the fact that we see what we see here, it's not necessarily an indicator that his chances are terrible or, he's not getting a lot of opportunities uh, for those for various reasons. The fact of the matter is just his team does not see that many opportunities. So neither does he. So I just want to make sure that context is very clear. I really believe at Olympiacos, where we're going to see a lot more opportunities in the final third and shot opportunities, we're going to see that translate with him because he's going to be getting a whole lot more opportunities. Assist creation came from a wide assortment of situations. He has a very accurate cross, especially when he's bombing down the left side and he plays the ball into the penalty area. Saw him get a number of assists that way. Free kick specialist as well, so we got a number of assists from corner kicks, other set piece situations. When he's playing as an attacking mid and he's able to carry the ball up the middle, he has a lot of situations where he just flicks the ball over the defensive line and into one of his teammates that's running on goal. He does that with such a remarkable consistency. The skill that he has to be able to pull that off so often is it's something else. Other shot assist opportunities where he would provide opportunities to his teammates, short passes across the penalty area, passes maybe back to the top of the box when he's taking a defender to the end line. He also does have a nice cutting through ball, and he can split the center backs in a pretty scary way. Now, again, some of you might be looking at the data here and saying, "Oh, but his assists are very low. It's very well below average." And once again, you would be right. The assists here, they are below average in his data. So You're probably thinking, Adi, you're making this guy sound so great, but how can you make him sound so good when his volume is so low? And the answer is, again, this is not his fault. Let's take a look at the build-up sections, the key passes, smart passes, and pass the penalty area. You can see key passes in the goal creation area, and you can see there it's very, very well above average. You look at smart passes and pass the penalty area, and he is pretty close to top tier in both of those. And this tells us that his assist creation is not for a lack of opportunities created for his teammates. It's just the fact that they do not convert those opportunities. He does not get an assist if the ball he plays doesn't get scored by his teammate. So if he's playing league leading numbers of balls into the penalty area, league leading numbers of scoring opportunities, and he's got no assists, it's because his teammates aren't finishing those chances. And that right there is the long and the short of why his assist creation is so low. Now, at a team like Olympiacos with a striker like Ayub El Kabi heading the line, I don't see why we don't see these numbers drastically go up, not just in Greece, but also in the Europa League. Up next, we talk about build up and possession stats. So, in that very top segment there, that's where you're going to see most of the build up and position stats. We were just talking about smart passes. We were talking about passes to penalty area, those types of things. Now, Willian is extremely versatile when it comes to contributing to build up. He loves to be on the ball, will come back to receive the ball in order to help kickstart offensive transitions. Also, incredibly deadly getting forward on the counterattack. Whether he's playing on the wing or behind the striker, he's got no qualms with getting a lot of touches on the ball. Whether he's returning down the field for give and go, unlock space for himself, get the ball, maybe dribble it forward. He can be a focal point in possession if he has to. Now, if his task is to play wide, he'll stick wide. I saw plenty of that. He can play a role as a wide man. His instinct is always going to be to kind of like cut inwards. That's just how he is. And whenever he sees an opportunity, even if the end product is to just cross the ball into the penalty area, you'll see him make those inside movements. So, in a manner of speaking, it's kind of like how Fortunis would be. How he always drifted middle, towards the middle that way. So, just something to bear in mind. Willian was an engine of possession for Fulham. When it came to progressing the ball into the final third, it didn't matter if he was dribbling the ball forward or passing. More often than not, he was the impetus for their transition forward into the final third. The combination of his fantastic distribution and his flair, his just great ability on the ball, just makes it very hard to defend against him. It makes it very hard for you to stop whatever is happening, especially if he's the one that's behind it. You go in for a challenge, he can overtake you with his skill and agility. One quick move and his burst of speed, boom, he's leaving so many people behind. And then at the same time, he can just put the ball pretty much wherever he wants at a given time. So you can't leave him be. Defending teams have to commit somebody to him because if you let him have the ball and dribble forward, he'll fine. He'll take the space and come at you and get an easy shot if that means anything. So you're required to commit somebody forward, and then that's where spaces get made. So he just represents this like all around threat in build up. Now, as far as pass accuracy, he's excellent in distributing the ball. Very rarely loses it. And seriously, outside of free kicks, crosses, and chips over the defenders in the final third, the ball is staying on the ground for him. Extremely competent in distribution. Unless he's having like a noticeably off game, he's not giving the ball up in any position. When you watch him move the ball in some sequences of play, it just looks effortless to him. Could be a 5 meter pass, 15-meter pass, doesn't matter. He just has such great ball control. And he really only lost the ball in free kick opportunities or free kick in situations, extremely ambitious scenarios, maybe when he got the ball forward. I did see a handful of opportunities where he would hold the ball maybe a bit too long, get overpowered. But even when he does get into like these physical duels, he's so hard to dispossess because he's such a strong guy. I never noticed that before. I mean, he's got a nice center of gravity. He's very strong, not easily dispossessed in any way, shape, or or form in that respect. Now, moving on to the defensive traits, we always talk about with offensive players, it's not necessarily that we care about them being amazing defenders. We really make sure that they press. And in the case of Mendilibar, is he going to press and stay in concert with the team in the pressing scheme? While the offensive game of his is absurd, the defensive side does leave a little bit to be desired. Playing at Fulham, he was required to track back, and he did for the most part, especially early on. But as the game wore on, you kind of saw less and less of that from him. I guess that's to be expected, especially at 36. He doesn't have the stamina that he did in his 20s. He's going to wear out quicker. Um, if he were in his 20s and he were able to run all day, he probably wouldn't be at Olympiacos, especially with his skill level. Now, besides tracking back, he's not a great ball winner either. We don't necessarily care too much about that as long as he's able to press within the system. Now, in this, I'm not exactly sure how he's going to fit. Mendilibar's pressing scheme is demanding, requires a lot of effort, and the wings have a part too. While the wings are technically our most creative players in build-up, they are required to be the ones that are pressuring the wide players so that the trap can be laid off of the press in the middle. So while Willian I saw in the press, it's the pressing scheme at Fulham was just way different. A lot of mid block, and ours is full court. So I worry that in the beginning it might be tough for him to kind of just really get into the press and the nature of the press quickly. In the air, also, Willian is really not that great. I mean, he's a shorter stature, so I guess that's to be expected. Don't expect him to be winning you a lot of aerial battles, and whether it's in our penalty area or not. So up next, we're going to be talking about the comparison. So I've got a little treat for you guys this time because I did a three-way comparison here. So Willian's plot is blue, which it's hard for you to see because it's underneath the other plots. But because of the way the colors clash, he's kind of showing up in that brown overlay that you see there because it's mixing with the green and the red. So that brown area is more or less where you see Willian in comparison to two players, Valbuena and Tyson. So this time, I didn't compare him just to one player, and I brought back the three-way, comparing him to Paux Tyson, which we usually do not do. We compare them to players at Olympiacos and Valbuena. Now, the reason I picked them and the reason I did that instead of doing a Fortunis or Podence comparison, because I thought that this was more appropriate. While sure, I could have compared them to Fortunis and Podence to see if how it compared to profiles that we lost, but because of how the fans have had an issue with the age of Willian, I really wanted to remind the fans of how useful somebody like this could be, especially compared to some older players that we've had before. Valbuena was an older veteran that came. Tyson is older than Willian is. And look what he did at Balk, and that's what we're kind of that's what I want to compare here. So last year, I think we can all agree Dyson was a revelation for Balk. There were concerns that he was too old. I mean, he did so much for them. He became a core piece of the offensive unit, not just in progressing the ball to the final third, but in scoring goals and breaking down the defensive line. He was top tier in Greece compared to other attacking mids and wingers. Valbuena as well. He's an even crazier beast. I mean, he's in the red, and you can see like he's just he's got most of the lead data points here compared to both Tyson and Willian. So the data that I used also from Valbuena here is from his best season with us, that 2020-2021 season. And you can just see him outdoing everybody in most opportunity creation categories, especially Willian, all over when it's touch count, key passes, just to set this point home, you know, you're looking at this data. I think we can all agree that both Tyson and Valbuena are great and incredible players that offered a lot to the Greek Football League, even at their age. So the fact that Willian's data here is so close to where Valbuena and Tyson stand, and he did this while playing in the Premier League for Fulham, a mid-tier side. That is astounding. And Fulham wanted him back there again. This guy was able to generate an insane level of production for a mid-table side and arguably the best league in the world. with his level of shot accuracy and opportunity creation, I mean, what do you think he's going to do when he's getting 2 to 3 times the opportunities in the final third in Greece for a club that's dominating possession and living in the final third more often? I mean, the guy is going to see plenty of opportunities. It will be insane. So even if you don't really understand because of the number of plots that are in this radar plot, the number of planes that are here, the takeaway is his data while playing in the Premier League represents a very similar trend to that of Albuena and Tyson, and they're playing in Greece. So the probability is that Willian will be able to do insane things in Greece this season once he's settled in and once he's had time to adjust to the system with Jose Luis Mendilibar. Now, this is around the time we talk about my verdict. What's my opinion on this player? Now, I'm sure I've buried the lead for you guys with my positive attitude, at least during each segment of the scouting report. In case you didn't catch it, I'm really excited about this player at Olympiacos. I mean, and I'll admit, when we were first linked with him, I wasn't really that excited. I was kind of worried about the age and I had the same concerns as everybody else. But then as I was reviewing the data and watching the film, I became more and more convinced that this guy could do great things for us. In context with what's available in the forward line, Willian offers something completely unique and different to what's available. I mean, he can plug a hole at the attacking mid for us, and he can play on either side of the wing. I mean, he was primarily playing left wing for Fulham, but he can play on the right as well. So he's versatile. He can plug different holes for us. If he plays, he's not offering the same type of thing as Veld, different skill set, and can give different looks, especially in different competitions. Whether we're playing against a better team or a team that's parking the bus, he offers something different. So in the end, the signing, this is a two thumbs up from me. It's about as good as it gets. I mean, especially with the context of what we have. We were looking for a veteran and somebody because of how young our team is right now, and looking for somebody that's creative and can help us break into the final third. It doesn't really get that much more creative than Willian. Now, look, I know some of you balk at the age of the player, but you should have learned by now that age isn't everything, especially in the context of the roster. I told you guys we were saying that we wanted to get another veteran. Like, think about it, with one of the youngest rosters we've had, with great young players out of the academy like Musakitis and Bakulas. Imagine for them what it's like to be able to have a guy like Willian teaching you and playing and training with him. They can get so much out of Willian. I mean, this guy played at the top level for years. I mean, he won a Europa League trophy. So, I mean, unless he shows up out of shape or maybe there's something else going on behind the scenes, this transfer should be a slam dunk for us. In the end, like I said, I'm extremely excited, and I think you guys all should be too. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed the scouting report. I hope you were able to learn a little bit more about Willian as a player, what he could offer to this team. The UEFA registration deadline, like I said, is coming up in less than 24 hours from the time of recording. I'm sure I'm going to be busy. I'm sure I'm going to have maybe one or two more of these scouting reports to do. So if you enjoy what you see, don't forget to like and subscribe. And until then, I'm Adi. This is the Dos International, by the fans for the fans.